Welcome back, team. Okay, let's move on today and we'll see how to provision the Kubernetes cluster and how to deploy the different services into the Kubernetes cluster. So that is where exactly very good learning for you today. I think we can enjoy our sessions. All right. So fine. The first and foremost thing, what we need to do here, team, let's go to the portal. Hope you are able to see my screen and able to see the portal as well. And the global search, in the global search, just proceed for AKS. Just search for AKS, team. Okay, just search for AKS. I'm just searching for Kubernetes, or you can search for AKS also, not an issue. Once you click on that particular Kubernetes service, you can see this particular screen. Here you can have a create button. Click on the create button, create Kubernetes cluster. Just proceed with that first. Click on Kubernetes cluster. So what you are doing now, you are provisioning a Kubernetes cluster. That is the first job here. So for that you have a resource group. I'm just taking one resource group which we have already, a Docker project resource group. If you guys recall, you can remember that, right? We have one resource group called Docker-project. You can just pick that. And also this particular resource group has a VNet. Okay, let me just give a walkthrough on the VNet. So what exactly the VNet is consisting of and what all the subnets are available. Let's see that one also, team. Okay, so just to double check. Okay, I'm just going for the VNet section. Just go for the virtual network. There I'm preferring a specific to the VNet, which is required for your Kubernetes cluster to deploy, right? That's what exactly our previous learning. In previous learning, just exactly the same thing, which we understand how exactly we need to plan for a virtual network and CIDRs. That's exactly the thing. So you need to have one virtual network, right? So the same thing which we are just thinking about. You just go for the Docker project as Jeep VNet. So there is a VNet, team. If you go there to the subnet section, there you can see the subnets. Okay, at the moment you are seeing different types of subnets here. Okay, that is fine, more than enough. VM subnet, app service, because you don't have any kind of app service. I'm just taking this one out. This is not required for me at the moment. Okay, just take that app service out. And also there is one additional subnet also which is available. That's really good. And especially whatever the app subnet is there, I'm going to use the app subnet. Especially the app subnet is the one exactly I'm going to use for the Kubernetes applications, team. Kubernetes application. So this is very clear. So now what exactly I'm going to do, team, go to the Kubernetes cluster. And once you're here, you're just taking this particular Docker project, and otherwise you can create completely a new resource group and new VNet also. That is yours, but that is already there. Already we know. That is why I'm not giving a recap on that particular part, VNet and subnet creations. Okay, we just proceed further, team. So once you're here, there you can see the cluster preset configuration. You are seeing different models here. One is production standard, dev test, production economy, production enterprise. For hobby project, so whatever the project you are doing at the moment, I can get the dev and test. And if it is really a production equivalent, always prefer production standard or production economy. So that is the only thing which you need to pick it up always. For best practices case, always go for this particular production standard. Okay, that's the best one. Alright, and the production enterprise is the one if you really require the best security as well as permission wise, even third party person should not enter into a particular network or the Kubernetes cluster. It will be very strong. But you can keep the production standard, that is more than enough. You can just select that one. And these are all the options being enabled recently only. So earlier it was simple, some standard, that's all. Okay, so you can just refer the documentation, learn more, compare the presets. So you can just take a link here. You can double check what are all the differences are coming up. For example, you see these are all the differences exactly. See, they are using the different pool size corresponding to that. Mission size is different. And also you can check and how exactly they can scale 225, 200, 225, 225. You can see the difference here, team. You can double check the difference, and you can just go through this one, which are not really needed at the moment because you don't know most of the things. Now we don't know what is a private cluster, what is the private policy. You don't know all the CSI driven network policies, authorization, authentication. That's why I'm not touching this one. I'll come to this one later. Just wait for a while, team. Okay. Just be here. I'm simply selecting the production standard. Okay. So our discussion would be, first we'll create a Kubernetes cluster and we'll play. Later again I'll come back to the Kubernetes cluster with a detailed discussion on each and every option. Okay. Alright, so once you have go for the Kubernetes cluster name, I'm just giving the Kubernetes cluster name as some 8 p.m. AKS is the one exactly I'm just giving. Okay, so once you are done with this particular thing, where exactly you are trying to launch a Kubernetes cluster in Southeast Asia region, that's enough, team. Okay, and followed by there you can see the zones. Zone 1, 2, 3. This is the interesting fact exactly I want to highlight to you, team. Okay, for example, team. So whenever you are seeing the zones, what exactly you can recollect, team. If you recall one interesting fact, team. If you recall one interesting fact in the diagram yesterday and day before yesterday when we were discussing, always we were discussing about your nodes are being deployed into the different zones, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 to maintain high availability. I'm keep on stressing this point if you guys recall. The same thing I'm just highlighting here also. So what are the things you are seeing at the moment? I'm just selecting the zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, okay, to just maintain the very high availability on your Kubernetes cluster. Once this is done, team, I'm just going for the pricing tier. Again, you can see it's a free one. Just the free one you can use for the lower environments, but prefer the standard one only. So you can read for the mission critical and the production workloads. And also you can get the 5000 nodes per cluster, and also you will get a very good SLA, 99.95 SLA. So this is the best one which you can use for the production, but your test case you can use the free one. Okay, that's more than enough. And the Kubernetes version is the one you can see the different types of version, and remember one thing, whatever is default, please select that one. And another catch I'm telling you here, if you are using any kind of lower versions of the Kubernetes cluster, I mean at the moment you can see some 1.25.6 as the lowest version. Okay, whenever you see some lowest version, please do not select such an option. So always go with at least default. Okay, you no need to go for the latest previews and all, at least go with the default one. The reason why I'm telling, if you don't select the more than default version 1.26 above, if you don't select that one, Azure will not support you. If you raise a really incident, some issue is happening from your end, first and foremost thing what they will tell you, you please go there and upgrade your Kubernetes cluster. You don't know, if you upgrade your version to 1.26 to 1.28, you don't know which one will break. That kind of worry always you will have, team. So that's why my recommendation is just keep with the default. That's enough, team. And another one, automatic upgrade enable with the patch recommended. Okay, so what exactly these things are talking about? For example, see, now you are seeing 1.26 as the default one, and also few other versions also being placed here, 271, 273, 28. And you want to proceed with this kind of automatic upgrade. Is that the thing exactly you are just expecting to see? So that is what exactly it is just talking about, team. Okay, and you no need to go for this one. My suggestion is don't go for this one, because for example you have set up a very strong network. Maybe let's consider you have set up some blockchain network or some kind of network in the Kubernetes cluster. If you completely depends upon the automatic patch update, automatic patch upgrade, if something break, I think you cannot answer to the client in the production. That's why we should not encourage these kind of upgrades until and unless it's safe. Of course, it's Azure managed only, but why to take risk? If something break, they will also say apology only. That's all. But the problem is you cannot say apology to your customer every time, right? That's why my recommendation is just disable that. If it is really necessary, then we can think about it. And next one is the authorization and authentication. That's the next thing which you are seeing on the screen. For this particular thing, you can see the different types of authorization authentication method. The local accounts with the Kubernetes RBAC, or Azure AD with Kubernetes RBAC, or Azure AD authentication with Azure RBAC. So these are all the different types of authentication. At the moment you are saying, I'm just selecting the default option, whatever is available. Okay, as I already mentioned you, I'm not deep diving into the options which are present in this each and every field. Okay, let's try to create a cluster first, then we will discuss deployments, and followed by once you get a solid idea, then we'll discuss these things again. Just go back to the notebook. This is what exactly I highlighted for you very clearly, team. Okay, very clearly I highlighted for you. The specialty, team, I believe now they are adding a user pool also. Okay, earlier I think they will only give some system pool, team. This is what exactly the pool usually they will always give by default. But the point you should understand here is, okay, what are the agent pool? I think what are the agent pool and what are the user pool? This is newly added, seems to be. This was not even there even a month before. Okay, this is newly added. But the advantage of this particular user pool is, see, system pool is completely, just assume system, that name itself is telling you very clearly this is only for managing the Kubernetes cluster, meaning that this is only for Azure to just manage Kubernetes cluster. Maybe they'll deploy some specific resources into your Kubernetes cluster. So for that purpose, usually they will use this system pool. And also the strong recommendation even from the Azure is do not ever deploy any kind of node, any kind of application to the system pool. Don't deploy that one. But at the moment, I'm just seeing only two pools. One is system, another one is user. You can create n number of user pool. What exactly the pool I'm talking about? This one team. 1, 2, 3. The combination of this particular nodes is nothing but a node pool. So total in the node pool, how many VMs are there? Total 3 VMs. I already mentioned, right? Collection of VMs is nothing but a node pool. I highlighted that one at somewhere here or somewhere I highlighted. So collection of the node pool. Yeah, this is what the connection of the nodes is nothing but the node pool team. So that's exactly the point here. So now what exactly you need to think about here is times, but whatever the option it is just showing, just keep that one as it is. You don't need to work on anything here, but slowly you will understand the differences, what exactly we need to use, what kind of node affinities you should use, those things and all you will understand, but not right now. Don't go too fast, learn slowly, okay? And the virtual nodes we'll discuss later about this virtual nodes, and also this particular this is OS disk encryption only. Just ignore these things, team. And also I want to highlight one interesting fact. Click on the agent pool. Yeah, especially when it comes to the agent pool team, there you are seeing exactly the interesting fact here. This is what exactly I just mentioned. Okay, let me give a quick view here. Okay, what exactly the thing you are just seeing here. This is one of the system agent pool. There you are saying available to join as 1, 2, 3, and they are recommending some size DIDS v5. You can still control this one, not an issue, don't think about it. And also you just go there you can see scale method. See, there is an option called choose size. That itself is enough to just change your virtual machine model, so don't worry on that. And followed by scale method manual or auto scale. So auto scale is recommended only, but at the same time you need to be very cautious when you're going for the test applications. Okay, so for example, someone in your project is keep on doing some performance test on your application team. Obviously what will happen, the performance test requires more CPU and more memory. Obviously your nodes will scale up. If nodes will scale up, obviously your charge also will be displayed on your bill. So the point here is just enable this one whenever it is required in the lower environment, but this must be enabled for the production environment. So that's exactly the point. Okay, production must. And also this is how exactly you are scaling now. So minimum node count is 2, maximum node count is 4, something like that. You can still control. You can keep this one as 1 and you can keep this one as 2, something like that. Also still you can control them, so nothing will happen. Okay, and followed by there you can see this is the interesting one which I'm trying to highlight and explain in your previous class. If you see max parts per node is 110 team. This is what exactly yesterday I spent some time to just explain these particular stuff, how exactly you need to deal this case. For example, see node 100 parts, that's what exactly we discussed, right? So point here is still you can control this one. That's exactly the thing I highlighted. You can keep some 70. Now tell me team, what is exactly the subnet size we planned for this one? You can see here, okay, subnet size we planned is 250 and you are just giving this particular thing as 70. Total how many nodes you can launch? 3 into 70, 3 nodes you can launch, 210 IP addresses, clear. Fourth one you cannot launch. The reason is to need 4 you need 280 IP addresses, but you have only 250. That's exactly the calculation team. So for the last session if you guys don't understand, okay. Alright, so once this is done, enable the public IP per node, which is not at all needed. We don't want to keep any kind of public IP for the node. It itself is a threat for you if you are keeping public IPs and all. Not needed team, just ignore. Okay, this is label, and finally the taints and no tolerations, these things and all in further sessions I will discuss. Okay, I'm just updating this. So once you are done, I'm just going for the network section team. There is a next networking section. This is the interesting section. There you can see the step number 1. You want to keep your cluster as a private? Absolutely yes. We want to keep always our Kubernetes cluster as a private. Please select this one, enable it. Okay, this is very important team. Okay. And also, so why this option is disabled? See, usually if you disable this one, this option is enabled. The reason is, for example team, if you make a public cluster means that doesn't mean that each and every person from public can hit your cluster. That is impossible team. But still you can whitelist only some set of IP addresses. Yes, I want to allow only some set of IP addresses only. You can give the IP address only, that particular set subnet only can connect with this particular cluster. You can still control that, but you no need to think about this option at all. The reason always we will make sure clusters as private. So that's a base rule, team. Okay, everything is a private. That's the safest one. All right. Next one is the network configuration, which you are seeing at the moment, which is a kubenet. Another one is a Azure CNI. So there itself, there is a small difference between these two, the kubenet and the Azure CNI. Especially when it comes to the network configuration, team, you can read this one. Best for the smaller node pool, each pod assigns logically different address on the subnet for a simpler set. See, the best for the larger node pool, the only difference between these two things is, first and foremost thing, the kubenet is suitable for the smaller work nodes, smaller workloads, and the Azure CNI is suitable for the larger. Now, why they are telling it's a larger suitable? There is a reason behind it. In Azure CNI, if you read this one, pod is assigned to unique IP. That same concept we discussed it so far. That is what exactly the Azure CNI is coming from. So it's best recommended to use the Azure CNI. Since you are using Azure Manager cluster, that one will be always helpful for you. If unknowingly, if you select the kubenet, which is a smaller work node, example I'm just telling. So meaning that what exactly the thing, you need to struggle a bit to just spend some time for the internal routing. It may cause some latency issues also, especially when the application being deployed, when you are accessing the application. That for the traffic, it may create some latency also. That's why it is recommended always go for the Azure CNI. So which is best suited for the larger node pools, and also you can give a specific unique IP for the each pod. The only drawback with the Azure CNI is, team, it consumes more number of IP addresses. That's exactly the problem. Because obviously it is supporting for the larger work node pools, right? It consumes more IPs as well. So those are the things exactly you can think about these two options. But simply remember Azure CNI is fine. Okay, that's all. And bring your own network. Of course, I have one. I have my own network. Please select this option. Now it is asking what is exactly your virtual network. Yes, we have a virtual network called Docker, right, team? Docker. Project SGVNet is the one exactly the thing which you are talking about. See, now it is throwing an error message. Can someone please read this error message? The subnet is not large enough to support all your node pools. Current IP is available 215, but required is 11,242. So the problem is, there is a problem happened, especially in your previous section on the node pool. See, your user pool is scaling to 200 team. That's absolutely wrong. Okay, I'm not really interested to keep this user pool at the moment. See, that is what exactly your user pool calculated. So total 100 are required. 100 into 70. That is where exactly calculation happened, team. So by default, not 70. I think that one we haven't touched. If you don't touch your node pool, default pod IPs required is 110. Okay, Yogesh also asked in our last session. Okay, default is 110. So obviously that one will take 100 into 110 plus 2 into 70. That was the exactly the calculation you are seeing on the screen. Okay. So to be frank, you no need to worry on that. I'm just going here and just select this one. Now I believe still it is assuming the same thing. Maybe you just need to reload the screen. No choice actually. Okay. I think we forgot to update that particular node pool section. That is why I think it is still showing that. Okay. Let me go for that particular option quickly. Okay. Sorry. Alright, you just go for this particular thing. I'm just going for the Docker project and followed by this particular down. This isn't okay. I'm just giving the AKS 8 PM, the same option. I'm just giving these are all the things and just go for that. And I'm just going for the agent pool is there. I'm just going for the agent pool there. I'm just referring one interesting fact. I want to keep this one as 1, this one as 2. Even you can keep this particular thing as a manual. I need 1 VM, that is more than enough. Even that is also absolutely fine, team. And 110 is the number, you can keep it. That is also fine. You just update this one. So that's the thing you need to do. Go to the networking section, enable private cluster, very important thing. And go for the authorized, not really needed because your cluster is not a public one. That's fine. And go for the network configuration. Azure CNI is the best suit and bring your own network. Please go there. And finally, you are seeing Docker project SGVNet, right? Just this is what exactly the interesting thing. I'm just selecting the wrap subnet which we prepared for this one. Perfectly alright, team. And interesting fact, do not touch these two address spaces. Especially what exactly these two address spaces. If you don't touch, that is the best thing which you can keep it. See, if you read this particular thing, generally when you are launching, if you can read this one, to assign service cluster IPs. For example, team, if you recall our services session, there I told about the cluster IPs, right? Especially, so these kind of cluster IP also require an IP address. Pod require an IP address, this is well known fact, but even cluster IP also require an IP address team. But who will give the cluster IP address exactly? Or who will give the pod IP address exactly? So those things, especially this cluster IP section generally will come from the Kubernetes cluster only. That is why this particular subnet, from this subnet, cluster IP will be picked up. That's exactly the thing it is just telling you, team. Okay. This particular section will be used for the DNS communication inside the Kubernetes cluster. So recommendation, just keep these things as it is. If you touch this one, you should make sure these particular subnets or these particular IP is not overlapping with this. That is also important. Okay, keep that point in your mind. Alright, I'm just going a little bit further. There is a network policy. This is an elaborated concept actually, but for now I'm just placing. So there you are seeing none, Calico, and also Azure native. So Azure native networking solution. So these are all the different types of network policies where Azure is offering you. So by default, either Calico is the one exactly you can go for the open source. This is a third-party open source which you can use again for the large-scale deployments. Definitely it's possible, but you need to put the effort. And even Azure native working solution also, this is simpler to basic security network requirements. That tendal your wish, team. If you really require to control some traffic among the pods or among the services, that's absolutely fine. Then it is a best option to refer the network policies. That's absolutely fine. But for now, I'm just taking. You can simply put Calico also. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen, but you need to define going forward. So that is the only the thing. But you can use Azure also. Azure also you can simply make use of this particular thing, not an issue. Going for the integrations, I'm not integrating any kind of Defender Cloud Container Registry or monitoring section. I'm not doing anything. I'm just Azure monitoring also. I don't need to monitor anything. I don't need to have any kind of alerts. Okay, not really required. Okay, fine. So once you are done, see this Azure policy. See. The Azure policies enforces especially your Kubernetes cluster to be safeguarded from the security point of view. I think it will help you to just make sure, I think especially on the any kind of attacks from the outside. So that's where exactly Azure policy, but don't enable this one for your dev test, these things and all. For production, please go ahead. Okay, not an issue. And finally, I'm just going for the advanced section. Enable secret store CSI driver. This particular option really helpful for you to pull a secret from the key vault. I'll show one discussion especially on the key vault, how to pull a key vault secret in the Kubernetes cluster. Slowly I will show you. Maybe when we are discussing about the cron jobs, but at the moment you don't worry about this particular one. But you just remember the option. If you enable this one, there is an option where it can pull a secret from key vault to Kubernetes cluster. That is exactly the thing you can think about. Okay, right. So. Alright, this is the another interesting fact. If you read this infrastructure resource group team, can you guys read this one? MC _ Docker-project. This is what your actual cluster name. _ AK this is what your resource group name. Sorry. This is your resource group name, and this is what your cluster name, and this is your location. See. MC _ resource group name _ cluster name _ location is the one a new resource group will be launched. That resource group consisting of all Kubernetes services which are required specially for our further discussion. All the services Azure will provision under this resource group, not under your resource group. Though you selected your resource group here, under this one only cluster will be there. But all cluster resources, whatever are required for the cluster, those things will be tagged under this resource group. So when you are creating a Kubernetes cluster team, you should keep one thing in your mind. Once you create a Kubernetes cluster, new resource group will be launched. That point you should keep in your mind. New resource group will be launched. So keep that point in your mind. And finally, review and create, and finally click on the create button. So now what exactly the thing you are trying to do here is we are simply creating one Kubernetes cluster specially from our environment. So they are telling the VM size of the DS2 is only allowed in the zone 2.1 in your subscription Southeast Asia. The problem here is you just mentioned one interesting fact under the basics, right? This is what the issue exactly is coming up. I don't want to control this particular availability zone. I'm simply leaving that one, okay? Because we are using the developer accounts or the free accounts. They will not encourage you to block these kind of things for actual usage, okay? I'm just validation is through. I'm just creating the Kubernetes cluster. You know one thing, team, this Kubernetes cluster provisioning will take some 5 to 10 minutes easily. We'll just wait for this particular case. Meanwhile, I'm going to show you one option for you right now. Okay. For example, today, this is what exactly you are trying and you are creating. Okay. This is what exactly you are just trying for, right? So for example, team, for example, I don't know where it's been created, not an issue, it's okay. I'm just creating, this is what your virtual network. Let me form it, team, let me form it. This is what your virtual network. Under this virtual network, there is a Kubernetes cluster. That is what exactly you are trying for. This is a Kubernetes cluster. So Kubernetes cluster being launched in one of the subnet. That's what exactly you achieve. I'm just taking Azure VNet. I'm just taking one particular icon. If it comes up, let me bring that one. Azure network. I'm just bringing up the Azure virtual network team so that your understanding would be good. And also I'm just taking this particular thing as Kubernetes. Yeah, I'm bringing up the Kubernetes also, especially this is the Kubernetes exactly you can think about. Okay, so you placed Kubernetes also inside. Now this is the virtual network, right? I'm just making this is little bigger. Okay, little bigger. Now I'm going to take another subnet, especially this is another subnet which I can talk about. This is here. I'm just going to launch a virtual machine team. Okay, one virtual machine. Now you should think about one case team. Okay, I'm just launching a virtual machine here. Now the point here is, I told you already, your Kubernetes cluster is a private cluster. Agree? Your Kubernetes cluster is a private cluster. This is a virtual network. This particular part is a virtual network team. This is a VNet, this is a VNet. I'm just keeping. Okay. I'm just keeping the VNet. Okay. What are the VNet you are seeing at the moment? I'm just keeping this one as a VNet. And also this is a Kubernetes cluster. Now just remember one interesting fact here. So whatever the option you are seeing, this is a Kubernetes cluster. But the point what exactly I'm trying to highlight for you here, team, since your Kubernetes cluster is a private thing, it is not so easy for anyone to just come and hit your Kubernetes cluster team. Point to be remembered. Okay, it is not so easy. Then how exactly we need to solve this case? How exactly you need to solve this case? How I can interact with the Kubernetes cluster? Because I need to deploy my application, I need to deploy my services, right? How you can do that? This is another challenging thing which you can think about. That is why I have deployed one VM here. The reason why I deployed VM in this particular subnet is, the reason is I need to deploy my application in the Kubernetes cluster, with the help of this VM. If you don't have this VM, you cannot connect with the Kubernetes cluster, because your Kubernetes cluster is a private cluster. No, this is sitting in the private subnet and this is a private cluster. Not easy for an outsider. If you consider a person, I'm just considering a user. Okay, if you consider a user, whoever the user you are just considering, it's not so easy for this user to just connect with this your Kubernetes cluster team. This is impossible. He cannot connect directly because he needs to come inside the virtual network. He needs to come inside the subnet. Then only he can hit this. That is not possible, team. And also, if you allow this guy, whoever you are saying, let's take this guy as a DevOps engineer now. Okay, DevOps engineer needs to connect to this particular VM first. If he could connect to the VM, obviously subnet communication is absolutely possible, right? Subnet communication is absolutely possible, so that whatever the VM you have, definitely you can make a connection with your Kubernetes cluster. This is absolutely fine. So next you need to prove this combination. How can I connect to your Kubernetes cluster as a DevOps engineer? How I can make a connection, how I can make the deployments, how to proceed. That is what exactly next we need to see. Thank you for the session. See you in the next part.